This is the Para Cave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club, and co-sponsors Bo Cook from Loan Market, Scott from Brightside Detailing and Ceramics, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Clothing, the official clothing partner of the Para Cave Podcast, and the official media partner of the Para Cave Podcast, the Parramatta Times. Hello and welcome back to the Para Cave Podcast. This episode is my weekly Friday night chat with the Duckman on Pulse FM 89.9 FM at about just after 7 o'clock each Friday night. Now this is a preview of the NRL Round, and this week it is NRL Round number 5. Now we've already had one game played, and that is the Eels and Roosters at the time of recording. So we talk about that game, which I attended at Allianz Stadium, and during the conversation that we have on the Friday night, we were just at the time the Raiders and Panthers game was happening, and future to that the Rabbitohs and Storm game was happening as well. But we also talk about the Sea Eagles and Knights, Dragons and Dolphins, Broncos and West Tigers, Sharks and Warriors, and the Bulldogs and the Cowboys as well. So a few games through Saturday and Sunday as well. So this is my opinions and the Duckman's opinions. We're just fan opinion. We just have fan opinions, not expert opinions. So we go through the games. So hope you enjoy this little chat, and let's see if our predictions come true. Over to you, Duckman.
All right, welcome back to the Weekend Sports Wrap. You're here with Duckman, with special guest Troy Warner from the Para Cave Podcast. Troy, how you going?
I'm going sensational, Duckman. Looking forward to another cracking round of NRL football, which kicked off last night. Unfortunately for myself, my team went down, but nevertheless, still looking forward to a great round of NRL footy.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Roosters got up 28-20, so the scoreline flooded Parramatta a bit because the Roosters ran away for a little bit earlier on in the game, didn't they? And then the Eels pulled it back. But if the Eels had a fight at the start, it could have been a very different game altogether.
Yeah, that's it. The Roosters pretty much controlled the first half of the game. It was 16-2 at half-time. The Eels didn't get their first try until the second half, but in the first half there was 2 sin bins to Parramatta. Will Penasini in the 5th minute for failing to get back on side. But I mean, I may be a bit biased, but I thought he didn't play any part in the tackle that caused the penalty, because Mitch Moses actually did the tackle. So probably maybe a little bit of a controversial one, I don't know. And the Bailey Simonson head-high tackle on James Tedesco in the 23rd minute. There's a lot of conjecture about that. There's some people saying that it wasn't high. Some people saying it was high. I've looked at it numerous times. It's a little bit hard for me to comment. I mean, I think the first contact is with James Tedesco's shoulder, but if you look at it as well, his sort of head I guess sort of ducks down a little bit as well. But these days, with any contact to the head, it forces a penalty and in most cases a sin bin. So, but after that, the Roosters, they pretty much controlled the game, scored most of their points in the first half. Parramatta held on pretty bravely during that time when they did have those 2 sin binnings. And the Roosters didn't really capitalise on that, but a few costly errors and decisions, I think, from Parramatta. The good thing being a Parramatta fan and seeing last night's game was the fact that they didn't give up. They still came back in the end. A few years ago, they probably maybe would have thrown the towel on the rack, and it could have been a bit of a blowout score, but they did come back. They never gave up, and the Roosters held on 28-20.
Yeah, so it was a good result there by the Roosters. So a few people told me they reckon the Will Pansini thing was the soft penalty and soft sin binning, but they said that Bailey Simonson was higher. So the only thing I got to gauge it off is from rugby union. If you hit someone in the head, even if it bounces off someone else's part of the body, if the contact is there, they just look at it. So they're looking automatically a red card, and then they're looking at the consequence. So they start to come backwards. So if it can downplay it, they will. So if it needs to go up, it will do. So he's probably dodged the bullet there, but I think he'll probably get suspended from what everyone's saying. I don't know. I haven't seen the tackle, so I couldn't comment on it in particular.
It's come out today that Bailey Simonson is looking at 2 weeks with an early guilty plea and 3 weeks if he fights it and loses that. So yeah, I dare say he'll probably take the 2 week suspension, and we'll probably see maybe Hayes Dunster or Sean Russell come back into the first grade squad for Parramatta. There was an interesting one last night too. A Roosters try was given a no try for Luke Keary. He actually held back. I think it was Will Penasini. And Luke was in control of the ball, and then he's grabbed Will and held him back. So I was a little bit surprised maybe that could have been a sin binning, but it wasn't. But it was no try anyway.
Yeah, I would have thought that might be a sin bin too, actually. I know, but Bailey Simonson probably doesn't want to be asking Ryan Madison for any tips on how to handle suspensions, because I saw it coming out through the week and goes, I thought it was going to include trial games too. Like, really? Did you really think that? So, well, what were you doing? The fine was $4,000. Just paid a $4,000. So you took all these weeks suspension for no reason at all. It's just dumb stuff.
He could have maybe been selected for one of these lower ranked national teams that played at the World Cup, and maybe served his suspension in the World Cup, but it wasn't to be. But Matto's back now, so. Yeah, that's all in the past. But I think, as you said, next time he'll pay the fine. And congratulations to Sam Walker too. He played his 50th NRL game last night as well. So he's getting...
Yeah, it's good. Sam Walker's a good player too for the Roosters. I think he's all right. He's not a massive superstar. Will he become that? I'm not sure. He's a pretty small guy, so he could do it. But he's not there yet. So... the other thing they're talking about is this concussion, right, that happened to Tedesco. So they're looking at how many he's had in the last 3 months. So he's going to be all right with that. How many he's had in the last couple of years, and how many you got to have before you have to sit out for a whole year. So I'm pretty sure Kalen Ponga has got a world of problems if he gets another head knock. He might be out for the rest of the year again. So he doesn't want to be going down that avenue, because I heard it all today. Went, this doesn't sound good if you've had a few whacks.
Yeah, James has had a few concussions over the last year or so. I think he copped one in Origin last year, and a few club games as well. So, well, obviously we don't like to see these great players go down with head injuries. We don't like to see any players go down with head injuries, but it can get accidents do happen. Not saying that any player goes out deliberately to hurt another player, and unfortunately, as you said, James has had a few over the last 18 months, and it could be a little bit of a worrying time. I think he'll probably... the Roosters are pretty good with this, because they've had obviously Boyd Cordner and Jake Friend in the past, and they're managing Luke Keary as well, who's had a few concussions as well. So they're very good at knowing what to do in this situation. So potentially you'll see James Tedesco sit out next week's game against the Storm.
Yeah, that's right there. So that will be good. They need him back on deck. So hopefully that will be the case. All right, so tonight it got Canberra up against Penrith, and the Panthers are up 19 points to 6 at the moment. And how do you say? It was pretty obvious what's happening here. 48 minutes in, 19-6. I'd say Penrith look pretty good. They're just going through the motions at the moment are trying to knock together some good performances consistently.
Yeah, well, they've just kicked another goal, so it's 23-6. So they're cruising at the moment. It was 13-6 at half time. Nathan Cleary kicked a field goal right on half time, but at 12-6, you thought maybe that the Raiders are in this game. There was a missed opportunity from Jamal Fogarty. He dropped the ball over the line, unfortunately. Had a bit of contact with Isaac Targo. Great effort there from the Penrith centre, which stopped the try. So that could have got it back to 12-all, but it wasn't to be. But it does now look like that the Panthers are rolling into this second half and just slowly taking the game away from the Raiders. There was a great try, Taruva's second try in the game in the 24th minute, just probably went through 10 or so sets of hands and just offloaded. It was the last tackle, and then Taruva's put the kick through and scored for himself. So that was a great try. And also congratulations to Isaiah Yeo as well. He's playing his 200th NRL game today as well.
Yeah, 200th game, and he's, I can't remember if he's captain this year or not. It was just Nathan Cleary, so I would use both of them together in case either of them are out injured or state of origin. But he's a very influential player for Penrith and from Wellington Cowboys too, so out near Dubbo. So they love him out there, so I know a lot of people out there, and they rate him very, very highly as well. South Sydney, they got the other game tonight up against Melbourne, so I reckon South's going to get the job done here, and I reckon we're going to see another Craig Bellamy blow up in the deluxe mould.
Yeah, look, this is going to be a really interesting clash. I think in history, I don't think the Rabbitohs have ever beaten the Storm consecutively. They got them last year, so it'd be interesting to see if they can get them this year as well. The Storm do have the wood over the Rabbitohs. I think I heard a stat the other day. It was like the Storm have won 30 out of 37 or 31 out of 38 games played between the two clubs. So South,
it's pretty unbelievable.
It is. So Melbourne is obviously a bit of a bogey side for South Sydney, but they'll be buoyed by the win that they had last week against Manly by that 1 point, 13-12. So it's going to be an interesting clash. They'll be confident that they can get Melbourne. Melbourne, few injuries, and Jerome Hughes is still suspended as well. So going to be a little bit of an interesting battle between the two young halfbacks, Jonah Pezzett and for Melbourne, and Lachlan Elias, who kicked that winning field goal last week.
Yeah, that's right. So South's biggest thing they've got to do, from what I've seen this season, they've got to switch on at the start, because they've gone behind a couple of times, and the games they lost, they went behind and they started chasing. They nearly did it at Penrith, and I can't remember who the other game was, but they got behind and then they have to chase, and then they couldn't do it. So they just let it get too far out of hand. So against the good sides, even giving up 10 points, it's hard to get that back. So against someone that only might give up 10 to 14 points in a game, you're not going to get 30 points off like the Panthers or against the Storm and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Against these quality sides, you need to obviously lead from the front. It's always easier to lead from the front and rather than chase down points against quality sides. So South will be looking to get off to that good start against the Storm tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Manly, so they've been a surprise packet, I suppose, this year. They're really fired up. Even when they lost a week, they looked good there. So they've just been pretty good in all the games. So I think they've got the Knights tomorrow, 3 o'clock, and I reckon you put the money on Manly to get the win. I think they're really humming along nicely.
Yeah, well, this game's actually being played out at Mudgee at Glen Willow Oval. Manly home game out there, so good for the country folk to get a NRL quality game out there. And yeah, the Sea Eagles, they're in quite good form. They had that 1 point loss last week against the Rabbitohs, but the previous week they beat Parramatta, and they had the bye and they had the win in round one against the Bulldogs. But a late change for them. Josh Schuster is out, unfortunately, and Cooper Johns replaces him. So that's a big out for Manly. But again, I think they've got relatively the same side that they've had over the last couple of weeks as well. So they should probably get the job done. One little interesting clash, if they do cross paths in the game, will be the two Johns brothers, Jack Johns for Newcastle and Cooper for Manly. So it's always interesting when two brothers play against each other, but just have to wait and see how that one goes. But I think Manly will get the job done.
I reckon they'd be lippy too, so I'm just having a bet at that one. they'll be into each other all game. So I would be if I was playing against my brother. I'd be telling him he's crap and he hasn't got anything. So
yeah,
and he knows I'd do it too.
You want to get that upper hand, don't you? You want to get those bragging rights for sure.
The mental edge, and then it's just when you win, you go, oh look at that, your team. You played all right, but your team rubbish. So there you go.
Yeah.
St George Illawarra, they got the Dolphins tomorrow. So this is the Dolphins' first foray into Sydney. So I think tomorrow. So I think they can get the job done against St George Illawarra. Actually, I think St George Illawarra ain't not too bad at the moment, but they're playing a side that's in good form.
Yeah, look, this one's going to be an interesting clash. Two red and white teams. It was probably one of those hard ones to pick, actually, because we all seen the Dragons over the last couple of weeks. They gave up a lot of points against the Broncos in the last 10 minutes or so. They got off to a good start of the season in the second round by having the win, but then ever since then they haven't put it together. They got smashed by the Sharks last week. There's a lot of talk about their coach, Anthony Griffin, whether he's going to be the coach next year, which possibly could cause a few disruptions. There was an interesting press conference from Moses Sully as well during the week, saying that he probably didn't want to be there at the club. Aaron Woods has left the club during the week to go to Manly. So you don't know what sort of Dragon side is going to turn up. In saying that, the Dolphins, they have a few outs, and their biggest out is Sean O'Sullivan, who unfortunately has ruptured his pec in last week's game against the Broncos in the Battle of Brisbane, and he'll be out for 2 to 3 months. Unfortunately, he went in for surgery during the week, and now he's in recovery mode. So Jeremy Marshall-King returns for them too from suspension, so that's a good in. Look,
it's going to be a big loss, but Sean O'Sullivan out for like that long, so it's going to take him 6 weeks to start to recover before he can start to do his rehab to even look to come back. So 2 to 3 months, easy. So
it gives Anthony Milford a good chance now to consolidate that halfback position, and you've got Isaiah Katoa coming back this week as well. So a big opportunity for Anthony Milford in the next 2 to 3 months.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do think the Dolphins can get the job done. See, that loss on its own might be real hard for them as well. And they've got who's the fourth that got out? Got someone suspended at the moment too. Khaleesi's out as well.
Yeah, so, Felix Kaufusi, yeah. Yeah,
Kaufusi's out, yeah. All right, so the next game got the Broncos up against West Tigers. I think the Broncos, I hope West Tigers can do all right, because the alternative is not going to look good if Brisbane turn it on tomorrow. They're going to have a hard day out. Yeah,
look, the poor old Tigers, 17th, last position, haven't won a game all season. Where do you start? Although in saying that, the Tigers do have a reasonably good record against the Broncos up in Brisbane, so I think they've won the last couple up there. But the way that the Broncos are playing at the moment, they're top of the table, they're at home, and their side is pretty much the same as what it has been for the first 4 weeks of the competition. So Tony Staggs scored that great try right at the end to win the Battle of Brisbane. Adam Reynolds is just on fire with his kicking game and his goal kicking, leading that Brisbane side around. Payne Haas as well was probably the form prop of the competition at the moment. I think he's leading the Dally M's as well at the moment. So, and then you've got Pat Carrigan as well. So a very good young prospect at the Broncos as well. So going to be a tough assignment for the Tigers. Going up to Brisbane and getting the job done, but they'll want to get their season off and running and get a win. So they'll turn up hopefully and give the Broncos a run for their money. But I think the Broncos will get this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the Broncos are going to do it pretty easy in my opinion, unless something goes wrong. The Sharkies up against the Warriors, so this is going to be a hard game for the Sharks. So I actually thought the Warriors were at home, but they're not. So that puts the game, swings it back in the Sharks' favour more. But the Warriors, if they bring the A game, I think Cronulla's still not 100% on the song here at the moment. The Warriors have really got a chance to strike and lock themselves up in the top 4.
Yeah, another interesting game. Sean Johnson returns to Shark Park to play against his old club, former club. Nico Hines returned for the Sharks last week against the Dragons for his first game of the season. Absolutely carved it up. Pretty much was man of the match. Try, assists, and the like, and his goal kick was pretty good as well. So he's carrying on that form from 2022 where he won the Dally M. So he's back, and yeah, look, it's one of these games. I think the Sharks are playing in a retro jersey as well, which they revealed during the week, which looks pretty good. I love seeing all the old retro jerseys come out every now and again. So, look, the way that the Sharks played last week against the Dragons, they're back at home. It's going to be a tough one for the Warriors to get this win. But we saw the Warriors get the win up in Townsville a couple of weeks ago. So usually their travel form isn't the best. We all know that. But yeah, it could be an interesting game. But I think the Sharks will get the win.
Yeah, I think the Sharks will get the win here. So the Warriors are going to give them a run for their money, though. So it'll be good. And the last match of the round got the Bulldogs up against the Cowboys. So they're hosting them. I think it's a really good opportunity here for Canterbury to sling together a good performance. The Cowboys are also out of touch. And if they aim up, they might well start going up top of the ladder too. So the Cowboys are getting themselves into being a bit of Parramatta problem at the moment. So dropping a few games where they probably would have won last year. By saying that, I think a few people have said maybe they were punching above their weight last year and they over-exceeded what their ability is at.
Yeah, look, this is another game that's probably a little bit hard to tip as well. Two sides, you probably think at the moment that Canterbury have been more of a form team than the Cowboys at the moment. Last year, the Cowboys were one of the best defensive teams in the competition, but this season they've let in a few tries, a few points, which is a little bit uncharacteristic of them, especially from last year. So the Cowboys, they've got a few outs. James Tarmo's injured. Jeremiah Nanai is suspended, and Murray Tuolagi is injured as well, I think. So they've got a few outs, which is obviously not good. But as I said, it's one of these games that could go either way. I think the Cowboys might just get the job done, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Bulldogs actually get the win.
Yeah, I think the Bulldogs will get the win just because Bulldogs' home game. I think Cowboys are still a little bit out of touch. They will do better, but I think the Bulldogs are starting to put the pieces together to push towards the top 8, and I think they can do it. I genuinely think they can do it, but they're just going to get in if they do because they're building a new team altogether with a new coach. It's not like they've only got a couple of pieces coming in. They've moved a lot of pieces around this year. So it is a big deal to do that. All right. So what have you got on happening over the weekend, Troy?
So work tomorrow and hopefully catch a few of these footy games tomorrow night. The Dragons and the Dolphins and the Broncos and West Tigers. And Sunday maybe a family day at Penrith Paceway. I think they've got some sort of markets and activities there. So yeah, a bit of a family day there, and obviously preparing a podcast and chat to your good self on Sunday night.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely looking forward to that. This is going to be a very competitive round, so that's what I have to say about the NRL this season. All the games have been good. There's been no 40s, 50s and 60s like there was in the last couple of years. Even the Tigers are off the boil a bit. But if they turn it on, they could beat most of these sides at any time. And just got to make sure that the irons are hot and they strike at the right time. So I hope you have a good weekend. And, yeah, we will catch up again on Sunday night.
No worries. Thank you very much, Duckman, and enjoy your footy.
Yeah, absolutely will be. So there's plenty of good games to watch this weekend. I'll chat to you on Sunday. Catch you later, Troy.
Thanks, mate. Will do.